I need an intro.
Just start the damn video!
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to ReploidProductions. I am going to try something. I'm hoping that it works out, but I spend a lot more time on my computer than I used to, playing games like Steam games and things like that, mostly Final Fantasy right now. And I've also been working on my own game, which I'm calling Maiden, which is the world that I'm designing. And then Maiden is also, this chapter is called Broken Wing. It's going to be an RPG series that I hope to release through RPG Maker, and it's going to tell small RPG stories. So the first one takes place in a small area, kind of gives you an idea of what Maiden is and the condition of its world at this point in time and things like that. So if anybody's interested whatsoever, I will update every now and then and kind of let you know how that's going. And then who knows, maybe if you guys are interested, I'll find a way to release it or something like that. Because I've seen a lot of people that make these games and release them on Steam, and I think I'm going to do that. But this is the headset that I started using, and I figured that maybe if I'm lucky, I can help the quality of the show a little bit by using this, and it picks me up. And then I don't have to worry about kind of raising my voice and the echo that happens in this room, because I've yet to soundproof this room. And I still have a lot of corners and things like that. And to be fair, there's still a lot of work to do, actually, because I haven't even put that frame on the door yet. So, I mean, you could tell. But in the long run, that is not actually why I'm here. If you guys have been listening to all of the podcasts, which not everybody does, to be fair, and there's nothing wrong with that, you guys will notice that there's been a lot of stress in the group right now. It's really tough. I'm working 60 hours a week. I have not made it to recording sessions. This is not even my day off right now. My only close to day off was yesterday, and it was barely a day off. I probably got 4 hours that were free time, and the rest of it was stuff I had to do. Of course, it's life, it's grown up, it's adulting, it is what it is. But I'm going to try this headset, and hopefully the sound quality is a little better in this episode than it was in the other ones. And recently, or not recently, but like right before the episodes that are about to come out, and the episode that just came out, there was a Q and A where emails and whatnot were sent, and the two guys that were there, which was Seth and Scott, they handled and fielded a lot of the questions and whatnot, and I figured I would come in here and field the same questions. So if you've already watched that episode, there's one thing for you. And if you haven't, right now, that show is in a kind of disarray. I will admit this, but the point of the What's Up is that it's your show. It was for you guys. It was for the listeners. The point of the What's Up, even though it's not really being followed right now for some reason, probably because I'm not there, to be fair, we are supposed to go over the feeds. So Jobber Wrestling Corner, Controller Pile Up, all the Facebook networks, and we're supposed to answer the questions that we've been sent, or the topics that are currently being discussed, or the news articles that are there right now. And that's what we were supposed to be doing. It's turned into a weird gripe session, and that's part of the stress eating at the crew. It's been crazy since the new year started, and since we went on the break. And just everything went nuts for some reason. It seemed like everybody was extra ridiculous busy during the break, and then a lot of people lost money, and then there was a lot of back and forth between the holidays and everything else, and then finally we had the con. Then right after the con, I came down with a whole bunch of surprise bills and problems, and then those problems led to me kind of having to drop out for a while, and then the other guys have not been able to make it to session, so everything about all 5 shows kind of dropped on Seth, Jeremy, and Scott. And they've been handling everything, and the stress is kind of getting to them that they're literally the only people running it. And they're not used to that, to be fair. I'm used to that. I'm used to being the one that gives up that much time and that much devotion to every single one of these shows and makes the show get out there. And I'm not there, and I'm not trying to sound overly important, but if you're listening to the shows, I think you notice there's a difference. If you don't, maybe I'm delusional. Who knows? Anyways, I want to come in and I want to field these same questions that they got. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put down the questions that they were asked, and then I am going to answer those questions myself from my own opinions and whatnot. Maybe we can clear some of the air, because they handled it pretty well, but then there was some information they were not privy to, and, well, I am. So, yes. Let's get started, shall we? Would you guys watch the first episode of each Kamen Rider and then rate it? Okay, this first question is actually pretty simple. I think they overcomplicated it, and I think they didn't quite understand what this question was about. I've received this question a couple of times through personal messages and whatnot. Oftentimes, fans will message me directly through the Facebook Messenger, or sometimes they will get a hold of me through my 2 Twitter accounts, which is Keeping Up with the X-Men and ReploidBill. You can find that way. One is at Keeping Up X-Men, and the other is, I think, like at ReploidBill. But anyways, that's my Twitters, if anybody's interested. But sometimes people send me direct messages there. And so I've been asked this question a couple of times, and I don't think the other guys really have, which is what threw this question off. It says, of course, would you guys watch the first episodes of each Kamen Rider and yada yada? Yes. Actually, I think they overcomplicated this. I'd mentioned a while back that what I wanted to do was start another segment. Now that we're starting to get more into the show reviews, this is something that we will be talking about, and it's something that would be interested. I want to cover the origin story points. So the first episodes, or the first arc, like the first 2 episodes, first 3, whatever, the first arc of each series, I want to watch it and come in and discuss it. Because I've also noticed that when we do the show reviews, oftentimes we'll spend like a good half an hour, 40 minutes of the part 1 review just talking about the first 2, 3 episodes, because the origin is important. It sets the stage for everything that we are to expect in the future as we move forward. So I think that we are actually, that this is not a bad idea, and I don't see that it would be that complicated or difficult. The only thing, I just don't see an issue. I think it's going to be real simple. This is all we have to do. We'll watch the episode. We'll come in. We'll talk about the episode. I don't know if these episodes would be long. I don't know if they'd be short. I don't know if they would work well, or I think they'd work well. I don't see why not. We've done the commentaries before, but I don't think you guys are looking for a commentary where we do like what we did with Green with Christmas Evil. That's not what this question is, and I think that's what they thought it was. I say yes. This is very doable, and I think it's going to be one of the segments that we add pretty soon, because we're just about done with the robot reviews. We have about 9 episodes left and the robots are done. So I think in order to fill that gap, it would be interesting to come in and talk about first episodes, the things that set the stage, the things that make it begin. So I think that we are going to do this. I babbled on way longer than I should have with this question. It's real simple. Yes, this is simple. We watch the first episode or the first 2 episodes, we come in, we talk about it, and it's our chance to get our first actual discussions on the Sentai and a comparison set of episodes that would say, Juranger versus Mighty Morphin, these are the 2 origin stories, which one did you guys prefer, and so on and so forth, and we could play another versus type game like our show has done with the Kamen Riders versus the Super Sentai and whatnot. So, real simple. Yes, this is simply done. Will you ever branch off into other shows? This question I found to be a little strange. Here's why. It's a little weird to me that this question came up at all. See, the whole idea of will we branch into other shows, we already do that. I think that this is more that people don't know that we already do this. If you guys are coming into this and you guys are just starting to discover us, we have a show called Comics Toss where we talk about comic books and animated series. Right now, it's only animated series. We promised to kind of launch it by covering all of season 1 of the X-Men animated series, and then we might go on to another series, or it might become a show to just randomly discuss the awesomeness of animated series and comic books in general. And we're going to branch into all kinds of things from that. And then we also have the What's Up, which is the show that covers anything, supposed to be the show that covers anything that is being talked about on the networks, the boards, the articles. So anytime I post an article, anytime you guys have a topic that goes crazy, anytime there's a news, anytime there's a random discussion, funny questions, comments, pictures, those are all supposed to be discussed on the What's Up. Number 3 is the Jobber Wrestling Corner, where we discuss all different kinds of things wrestling. I say we, that's not true. Shane has gotten involved. Mostly that is Scott and Seth's show, and they handle all that. That's the best idea. That's the best that I can give you right now for what that is that we already do this. So I'm not 100% sure what that question was about, but if you guys go to fandomnight.com and you actually check the feeds, we've had like 9 podcasts over the time. Everything from a Final Fantasy Legacy and on and on and on and on. We've talked Castlevania, we talk video games, we talk other kinds of shows and whatnot. And we've even done a lot of movie reviews and things like that. So we already do other shows. So yeah, I feel like this is a misunderstanding by whichever fan asked the question, to be fair. If not, I didn't understand your question either. Will we ever get the ladies back for more episodes? This is very simple. Yes. In fact, it is something that I am working on in the background, where I'm trying to devise topics and things that can be discussed by the ladies in general and to get them back. And for that matter, I'm trying to find reasons to make like Punky a bigger part of the show and deals like that. Because honestly, I would come in and do Keeping Up with the X-Men with Michelle and things like that. I would do all kinds of shows. I would like to get her more involved. This has been a decade-long project, basically. And she's the only one in terms of that decade that's really been sticking around, and I feel is she works well for that atmosphere. She's just not used to it. So I think that we're working on a couple of things, and they've still got to get used to the mics and things like that. But yes, I do believe we are working on more episodes for them to come in on, and for that matter, for them to continue their Sailor Moon discussions. There's a lot of things left to discuss. How do I get my email read on the podcast? I agree with Jeremy here 100%. He said very simply, stop asking one specific question. Everybody always asks us one specific question. When will you guys get to this? Guys, Tokusatsu is huge. It is a fandom that is unbelievably ever expanding, and we will get to these topics, but you're talking, it is huge. And the way our show works and the time that we have to actually get together and do these things, we're moving through it, and we're getting pretty close. Like now we're finally starting to get the episode reviews actually done, and the robots are almost done, and we've already covered every costume, and just we're getting there. And now we've started Ultraman, so we have Kamen Rider, we have Super Sentai, we have Power Rangers, and we have the robots, and we have Ultraman. So, and then we're going to be adding villains. So we're going to start talking about main villains of the series, both for the Super Sentai and the Power Rangers, and we'll also do comparisons of the two and things like that when our knowledge allows us to do said comparisons. But yeah, we're getting there. If you want an email read on the air, the easiest way to do it is to make your question, and I'm not going to say more relevant, but it has to distance itself from the flock that we get, because we get 30, 40, 50 different messages very often that all say the same thing. When are you guys going to talk about Band Kids? When are you guys going to talk about Metal Heroes? When are you guys going to talk about Beetleborgs? We'll get there. This is a major time-consuming project, and there's a lot to cover, and we will get there but it takes time, guys. So your best way to get read on the show would be to ask a real question. If you ever chose to do the horror movies again, what would you do differently? This question is actually dealing with something that I brought up to the group recently. I said that now that the What's Up has changed, we need to guarantee the kinds of things that we can and will talk about, and we need to create the feed that will allow us to do these things. We are on the verge of possibly launching a new 2 or 3 new feeds. These feeds will not be updated all the time. One will be like Fandom Cinema or Fandom Cinemas or whatever, where we talk about where anytime anybody has seen a movie and they want to review that movie, that would go up on that feed. And of course, if you guys haven't figured out, we are a podcast network over at Fandom Night. So this would be a podcast feed, of course. And if you were interested, then we would be talking about all kinds of different things in movies and shows and things like that. I believe it would be called Fandom Cinemas, and that would allow us to cover that area. Now, that is where these things would go. So if we ended up doing another thing of horror movies and things like that, they would end up going in that feed. So in terms of what would we do differently, we would find their own home, and we would get either single reviews or multiple people into the review whenever it would be necessary. Like when the new Star Wars movie comes out, I think it would be a good idea to jump in and actually have a podcast where we all talk about that movie, and it would go there so it doesn't crowd up the other feeds. And I just feel like that's the better way to handle it. And of course, there's something else that's in the works too that would give us a spot to put these things. Because the biggest thing about our network is I'm trying to keep it organized. Because the biggest problem that we had with Reploid Productions, this show that I finally brought back, was that it was too random. Me being random is one thing. The entire group trying to be random, it was just ridiculous. It was eating us alive, and the feed wasn't picking up any speed because people were coming in to hear wrestling, and then they would have to scroll through the feed, and it would take forever to find the wrestling episode. And then people came in, and all they cared about was the gaming episodes, and they have to scroll through the feed to find it. This way, if you come in and you're looking for video games, that's the controller pileup. If you come in and you're looking for movie reviews, you don't quite know what you want to watch, but maybe we've seen something, maybe you'll get an idea. That's going to go in Fandom Cinemas. If you come in and you want to talk about tokusatsu, if you want to hear some tokusatsu, well, that's the Sentai review, and so on and so forth. So just keep your eye on the network. These horror movie reviews are actually going to be coming back in a way, and I think they will be coming back through Fandom Cinemas. What did Shane get for Christmas morning? He got a He-Man costume, and he was supposed to wear it to the con, but Shane actually has a form. It's ridiculous. We've been doing this show for almost a decade, and believe it or not, Shane has massive stage fright. He doesn't do well on a stage where people are actually looking at him. So he was supposed to wear the He-Man costume to the con and be in the panel as He-Man. And it did not work out. That's what he got for Christmas, was a He-Man costume, but we couldn't actually get him on stage in it.
Nope, now you gotta do the lead back.
You gotta finish the song.
No, because this song is kind of long.
No joke, it really is. Who was better, Ash or Gary? I am going to disagree with the team massively here, because the idea was, they said who was the better trainer, Ash or Gary? First off, let's get into this part of the question right off the bat. They started talking about how, they were pulling from the video games. That's not possible. I'm sorry to be the biggest nerd in the group right now, But when you talk about Pokemon, that kid was not Ash. That kid is Red. Okay? I'm sorry. That kid is Red. And then depending on where you are, whether you be in Japan or America or whatever, that kid is not Gary. That kid is Blue or Green, depending on how you view that and which one of those two names you want to use. I believe in Japan he was Green, and I believe here in America he was Blue. And just to let you know, that has nothing to do with Ash or Gary. They were roughly used, and I'm talking roughly used for the anime, but Ash is not Red. Those are two different people. So now that we've got all that out of the way, I will try to answer this question. Who was the better trainer, Ash or Gary? Sorry, not Gray. Blah, 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 blah. But, guys, I'm going to say it's Ash. And I know he's an idiot. He's a dumbbell. But here's the thing. Part of Pokemon, part of the understanding is that this is not about just teaching your Pokemon to beat people up. There is a love and compassion and understanding of the creatures that they bond with that if you're just training dogs to fight, you don't understand. That's what I'm trying to get at. Gary was very much the kind of guy that just kind of took his Pokemon and went for the gold. It was about winning. It was about winning. And that is not, they try to emphasize this all the time. That's not what Pokemon training is about. They argue constantly that there are those guys out there that just want to win, like the episode where they got the Charmander. That dude, that's what he is. He just wants to win. He has a whole bunch of Pokemon, and as soon as the Pokemon no longer do what he wanted them to do, they don't win. They're not winners. He leaves them behind. And he goes for somebody else. Was Gary talented, and could he utilize his Pokemon skills? Yes. But I think that in the long run, if Gary and Ash were to meet back up in the series today, even though Ash is an idiot and for some reason he constantly forgets what he learned in the past series, I think that by accumulative experience and as far as he is gone, I think that he would smash through Gary, because Gary is about winning and Ash is about understanding. He tries to build a relationship and a bond with his Pokemon, and the Pokemon try harder for him than Gary's Pokemon try for him. And you can see evidence of this in different aspects throughout the course of the show. I think that Gary was always ahead of Ash, especially in the original series. But I think that as time goes on, I do actually believe that Ash would be the stronger trainer, because he doesn't do this, but he was supposed to have developed and gotten smarter and gotten better and learned from his experiences. And by the very end of the series, he really did. If you took Ash at the very end of the series, and I'm talking just the Indigo Leagues, that's all we're talking about here, the Indigo Leagues into the Orange Islands. Right after the Orange Islands, before we go to a new series where he starts getting new Pokemon, and all of a sudden he's an idiot and he has to be taught the basics all over again, that Ash, that kid, if the series would have ended right there where the game ended, he would have smashed Gary. No question. He cuts him to ribbons. There's no chance whatsoever. That's where I'm sitting with this. I think Ash is the more compassionate trainer, and he's the better trainer because he cares and understands better than Gary, who's about win, win, win. And Ash is not Red. Red cuts both of those characters to ribbons. No contest at all. Would you be willing to review the Harry Potter films, or do you feel they've already been done to death? No. I'm not. If they want to, this would be one of those really good aspects. This is what I was talking about. If they wanted to do Harry Potter reviews, that could go up on Fandom Cinemas. That's brilliant. That's exactly what that would need. And it needs a launching point anyway, so maybe that's a good idea. If people are actually interested to see or hear the group's opinions on something like that, if they really wanted to hear what was the opinion of say, the Harry Potter movies, that's a perfect place for it, is Fandom Cinemas, if that finally happens. And the reason why would be simply because we have Jeremy, who liked the show and the books, the movies and the books, and we have Scott, who I believe has done the movies and the books, and then we have a couple of the girls who actually like the movies and the books, or just the movies. And then we have Shane, who's a huge fan of the movies, and then we also have his lady Amanda, who's a fan of the movies and the books, I believe. So this is ripe. We have more than enough crew to handle this. I think this would be a good idea. I don't see a reason we couldn't do it. Could you add a Doctor Who podcast? Can we add a Doctor Who show? This is definitely somebody that actually listens to the podcasts and knows exactly what we're about here. We're a podcast network, and we are working on something in the background. It's a slower process. We're building up topics and discussions and things like that we can have, but I think that we are going to release a show called Who Trek. And the idea is to give me an excuse to be able to talk about Star Trek while at the same time giving them an excuse to talk about Doctor Who. So the Doctor Who portion would be handled by, say, Scott, Nick, and Shane, and possibly Greg. But Greg is very rare that we get a chance to meet up with him, but Greg would be one of those people. And then the Star Trek portion would be handled by me, Shane, Scott, Nick, and Greg. So we got a pretty big team for both subjects, and it would work out really well. It gives me an excuse to talk about Star Trek, and it gives him an excuse to talk about Doctor Who, and these are huge fandoms that we can go into. And so, yes, this is something that's working in the background, of course, but yes, I think we can do it. Would you review movies alongside the Super Sentai series counterpart? This question, I'm guessing you're talking about the Super Sentai stuff, because if you're not, we've already reviewed both the movies, all three of the movies, actually, for what we got in America. If you're talking about what was going on in Japan with the Super Sentai, man, we'll get there. It's going to take us a while. We'll get there. Yes, I believe that once we start watching the series, if we dig up the movies, we'll definitely be coming in and talking about the special event movies. But at the same time, if you guys are talking about things like Godzilla and things of that nature, yes, I have debated whether that goes up on Fandom Cinemas or whether that goes up on the Sentai Review. And that one's rough because Godzilla is tokusatsu, but at the same time, it's going to go up somewhere. We will end up talking about Godzilla movies and things like that, if that's where your question was going. But if you're talking about the Super Sentai counterpart movies, then yes, we'll get there. It's just going to take time. What is your opinion about Disney buying Fox? I see no issue whatsoever with the fact that Disney bought Fox or is trying to buy Fox. It all depends on if this goes through fully and things of that nature. I think that it needs to be utilized in the Marvel Universe, but they need to be careful how they do it, because there's also something to be said about how the Marvel Universe, in terms of our movies, has been formed. The fact that we only had certain elements at certain times has developed a story which went from here to here, because we only had certain things that we could play with at certain times, and then we slowly got different material that we could play with. Things like we got Ghost Rider back, so we put him here in the series and things like that. And I also believe that the series in general is becoming problematic. It's true that the series are building and that they're a part of the Marvel movie universes, but then when giant events happen in New York in the movies, there are characters that don't show up or that are not referenced in any way whatsoever, like Daredevil is in New York. And then you're going to tell me that Daredevil's in New York and then New York gets attacked by like invading forces or something like that, and he doesn't do anything. And then now we got Spider-Man, and Spider-Man has evidently been around for a long time, at least a year or two easily, before he's discovered by Tony, because there's even YouTube footage of the kid. But we haven't seen him. Now he's in the movies and everything like that. But then these guys from the movies, they're not showing up in the series, and the guys from the series are not showing up in the movies. So the problem with getting all these properties back actually comes down to where they're going to be put. Like if we get the X-Men back, if we had the X-Men and into something like, say, The Gifted, and the X-Men actually start showing up, the actual big hitters, the guns of the X-Men, if they show up in the Gifted, does that then discredit them from ever showing up in a movie? Because so far it seems like it does. So while I'm definitely for this, I love the idea of having all of Marvel back under one roof, I'm scared about how it's going to be utilized. Where can we finally get some Fandom Night merchandise? Fandom Night merchandise is tough. That is something that I've been working on for a very long time, off and on, and it's hard to get it started. We had a Fandom Night shirt logo. It was just the fist that came down. It was on the shirt. It said Fandom Night. And then there was another shirt that was being worked on where I was going to paint a type of tube. And then I was because I have to do it myself. I can't just take something from the show and put up a picture and say, hey, look, I did that. So I don't know if I'm going to pay somebody to do a Zordon picture or if I'm going to do it myself. But we were going to put a tube, and then on the back we were going to have the top 10 things that our Zordon has said. So, different things like I'll go to another dimension and things like that. Or don't view that plot holes, a big one, and different things like that were supposed to be on the back of that shirt. And I wrote up the back of the shirt, and then the front of the shirt, we started working on it, and we have rough concepts of what that's supposed to be, and then Seth kind of tried his hand at it, but he used some massively copyright material, and we can't do that. So we got to be careful what we do, and that was not being careful of what we do. I also debated having the tube on the back of the shirt, and inside the tube having all the sayings for Zordon, and then on the front just the blue glowing head. And so there was something like that was in mind. There was a Christmas morning shirt, which was just supposed to be some crappy wrapping paper or whatnot curled up and on the ground. And it was on the back. On the back it was supposed to say across like the top, like Shane. And then it was supposed to say, it's Christmas morning. And nobody ever, like if you're walking around out in town and you have that shirt on, people would have no clue what that was about. But that was part of what we thought would make it sell. There was also a poster, which we did for Fandom Night, which is just the logo. It's a real solid poster. It really is. And it's just the Fandom Night logo on a white background. It's a big board. It was like this. We handed them out at a couple of the cons. And I still have a couple of the prints, and we still have it on file, so we are able to print it out. This year, we're hoping to see a lot of changes. We are not going crazy, but we are about to monetize, and I think we're getting slight advertisement for the podcast. That way we can actually cover the web space and start getting microphones and equipment and start getting the computers under control and things like that. Because, guys, this show is way more expensive than you guys would think. The website alone is sometimes more than $300, and easily $300 to $500 a year. And then if you're talking about just the web space alone, that's one thing. But then you got to think all the microphones, the headsets, the time, the investment, the fact that we spend 9 hours in the studio sometimes. 9 hours we got to eat, and that's an expense that actually comes down on us, because it's not like we can just go downstairs and cook up some eggs or something like that. We got to get something quick because we got to keep moving, or we're going to be here till 2 in the morning. So oftentimes that forces us into decisions like, well, just get pizzas or something like that. And then that's a constant expense on top of that. And then also a lot of the people, we need Netflix and things of that. Like we have to have internet. And that's not just in our personal lives. We have to have internet that can hold up to live streams and things like that. And then we also have to have Netflix. Almost everybody on the show has to have a Netflix account so we can cover the Super Sentai Power Rangers material. Because now we're watching Turbo to come in and do the Turbo reviews. But that means that everybody on staff has to have Netflix or has to have the DVDs. So it's a lot of money in the background that's swimming around. Microphones, cords, the soundboard, the computers, especially the computers. Guys, I've blown through 3 computers since I started this because it's a constant wear and tear on your computers. Every single day we are recording and rendering, and It just, after a while, your computer doesn't hold up to that anymore. You start to burn it out. And then, of course, your computer gets older, and then we move to high definition with the videos and whatnot for a while there, and that was burning us out. I burnt out 2 computers. This is my 3rd computer, and this one is fine. I haven't experienced any issues, but I know that when you're talking about laptops is the reason that these are burning out. Laptops are almost made to die. And that's a problem in general because we have to be able to be mobile. Like, it would be one thing to have one computer in this office. That would work. But most of the time, we have to be able to pick up and move. So I got to be able to take this laptop, which is what we do a lot of our recording on, and go to Jeremy's or go to Shane's or go to Scott's or come here. And the computers are always moving back and forth. And after a while, the wear and tear of the computers, they go out. Nick's computer is just about done. Scott's computer is just about done. And we got to replace those. And that's money on top of money on top of money on top of money. So we are trying to formulate a way to bring money in, but we don't want to get crazy because I don't want to fall into this 5 previews problem. I'm not trying to be greedy here. I'm just trying to get it done. So I think that we're going to get an advertising contract. I'm hoping for Amazon, and here's the reason why. I would like to get an Amazon link where we can offer you guys a discount. And the reason that my mind goes there is because I can't tell you how often people are on the network and they're like, I'm buying the Power Sword, I'm buying the Chozu Dragon Zord, I'm buying this Megazord, I'm buying these, I'm buying this toy, I love this, I love this, I love this. And if we're lucky and these items appear on things like Amazon, we can actually save you guys money and pay for the website at the same time. This would be massively beneficial because, like I say, I'm really not, and Seth has mentioned it too in the episode, that the reason I'm doing this episode. He doesn't want to take money out of your pockets. None of us do. We honestly do not. We are working class, okay? I'm working 60-hour work weeks right now. And like everybody here has a normal job, and then they do a full-time normal job, and then they come here to do this. We have very little free time and whatnot. We know what it's like to break your ass to get money, and you don't want to, like I thought about Patreons and things like that. There's a lot that we need to do that's costing a lot of money, and we're trying to figure out how to do that in a good way. And I think that the Amazon thing would work out for us really well because you guys would be able to buy these things that you're already going to buy anyway. And we could get you a discount on those things, and it would kick over some pennies to us that would allow us to make this show happen, and then the networks keep going and things like that. So I think that's one thing that we're looking at. The other thing is to finally get some of the merchandise off the ground, because all of a sudden there's a buzz where people are starting to ask, as you noticed, we had the question, people are starting to ask, where is this merchandise? Well, it doesn't exist. But if it existed, that might be a way to kick a little more money into what we're doing and things like that. So we are in constant debate right now with the merchandise and how to get money into the show. And we're about to run some monetizing and things like that for YouTube. And we are working on finally getting some of the merchandise out the door. So it's been a long and stupid process that shouldn't have taken nearly as long as it did. But yes, I am trying to get some of the merchandise off the ground. Okay, that has been it. That was every question that was posed to the guys in terms of that episode, and I wanted to come in here and kind of give my opinions on that stuff and kind of answer some of the things that they didn't have specific levels of knowledge to, because it seemed like they fumbled over a couple of the questions, and not that I didn't, to be fair, but that's what it is. So guys, I'm done here.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.